Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jason Wilson, and I've had the opportunity to lead the design and development of the Spanish Fork Hospital. And as a Spanish Fork native, I can tell you that this has been a tremendous honor and an experience that I will always treasure. This really is a tremendous day for all of the communities here in the south end of Utah County, including Spanish Fork, Springville, Mapleton, Salem, Payson, Elkridge, Santaquin, and every other small town. If I could go through them each individually, but it really is a great day for these communities. This is the official start of construction for the Spanish Fork Hospital, and this is what the facility is going to look like. I would like to offer a special thanks to members of our Intermountain Healthcare Executive Leadership Team, including our President and CEO, Mark Harrison, our Chief Operating Officer, Rob Allen, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Mark Griesacher, and our Chief Nurse Officer, Kim Henriksen. Also, members of our Utah County Area Hospitals Governing Board. I can see a number of you out there sprinkled in the audience. Local government leaders, and certainly appreciate all of their support through this process, including our state legislators, county commissioners, mayors, and city council members. Certainly would be remiss if I didn't mention our physicians and medical staff who have done so much to make the day possible, and our hospital directors and managers for all that they do every day. And I want to recognize their presence. Now today is the culmination of years of planning and preparation. Well over a decade has gone into making today possible. Intermountain is grateful for the tremendous support we have received for this project from local government leaders, as well as local physicians. While the hospital, and I want to point this out, while the hospital that we have planned will be decidedly high-tech and cutting edge, the focus of our theme today draws upon the heritage that our South County communities hold as the agricultural heart of our state, and honors those that came before and made this day possible. Our theme is planting seeds that will grow into something extraordinary. Now, when the settlers first arrived in these valleys, they had a vision of making the desert blossom as a rose. They broke ground, they planted seeds, they set foundations and established the communities that we live in today and call home. And it is our intent today to similarly break ground and make this site blossom as a world-class community hospital to serve and bless the lives of our communities for years to come. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this hospital before we get started. It's going to be a 30-bed facility. It sits on approximately 45 acres. The estimated cost for this facility is $170 million. It will include 5 labor and delivery rooms, 2 C-section rooms, and 2 antepartum rooms, 12 postpartum beds. You might be getting a theme there of a lot of babies, which is one thing that we do expect to have happen at this hospital. You're welcome, Anne-Marie. We planned 12 emergency department rooms, 4 operating rooms, and 2 endoscopy rooms. We also have a comprehensive imaging service plan with CT, ultrasound, general radiology, and MRI. Lab and diagnostic testing and infusion therapy will also be a part of the plan. And then we also, as a part of this building, incorporated into it will be a medical office building that will feature an Instacare and an outpatient pharmacy, as well as many doctors' offices. We expect the construction to last 2 years, and it will be a full 2 years. So we'll have you back in the fall, late summer, fall of 2020, and we can do this again as we cut the ribbon for this wonderful new facility. We've had tremendous support. Again, I want to mention this from so many people, but also from our internal planning team of architects and construction team members that are Intermountain, but we also want to thank our architect team, our design team from HDR Architects, who helped design this beautiful facility and campus, and Oakland Construction, who will carry out the plans and build this new facility. Now, before we start with the rest of the program, I do want to make a special announcement. While it's been my pleasure to lead this project, my primary responsibility is actually as the administrator of the hospital in American Fork. It has been a joy being involved in this, but we've gone through a very thorough vetting process. We've looked at a lot of different candidates, and we are proud today to be able to announce that we have selected a new administrator for this hospital. That announcement went out to our internal teams earlier today, but I'd like to welcome to the stage for just a moment my good friend and colleague, Francis Gibson.
Oh, great. What an honor. This will be a treasure for South Utah County. Jason is a native to Spanish Fork. I've been in Mapleton for 20 years, and 20 years sounds like a long time for many of you who do not live here, but that's really an infantile compared to the amount of people that are here. I could go on and thank lots of people for this. If you'll just give me another a round of applause for Jason. The amount of work that's happened so far. Jason is very clear that he is willing to hand this off and my phone number to anybody who wants it. But he lives here. He grew up, he doesn't live here now, but he's grown up here. He loves this community. He's putting a lot of heart and soul in this, and so I have a lot of work to finish. We could thank many, many people, but I'm grateful to be here. This will be a great hospital. It'll be great for this community, and we'll continue to do great things and hopefully make everyone in this community proud to call this their hospital. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Francis. Now to run through our program today, we'll first hear from Dr. David Ludlow, who is an OBGYN with the Canyon View Medical Group and a longtime resident and physician native of Spanish Fork. Then we'll hear from Mayor Steve Leifson, Mayor of Spanish Fork. Next up will be Everett Kelly Polo, a resident of Spanish Fork and the principal of Springville High School. He's also a member of our Intermountain Governing Board for Utah County, and he'll share a few of his thoughts on the project. Next up, we'll hear from Dr. Jeff Sparenborg, who's an Intermountain physician that will be practicing here in the medical office building that we're about to build. And then Colleen Bigler, a member of our foundation and governing board here in in Utah County, and takes responsibility to chair our foundation, which is the fundraising element of our hospital and our organization. Next, we've got something kind of fun. We will have the award-winning cowboy poet, Paul Bliss, come up and share with us a poem that he has written especially for this occasion. And we sure appreciate his help with this event, as well with the groundbreaking that's going to be coming up here in a moment. Then following that, we'll have Kim Henriksen, our Chief Nursing Officer for Intermountain Healthcare and a resident of Mapleton, I might add. And then to conclude today's event, we'll hear from Dr. Mark Harrison, our President and CEO. And so with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Ludlow, and we'll walk through this agenda.
It looks like a pretty long agenda, but Jason told me that he's bigger and stronger than I am, and if I speak for longer than 2.5 minutes, he's right behind me. I'm honored today to represent our local physicians who are still engaged in active practice. I'd like to think that I was asked to speak because I'm a brilliant orator, but I understand that's probably not the case. The sad truth is I think I'm the longest practicing physician in Spanish Fork right now. I think I graduated medical school before anybody else who's actively practicing in Spanish Fork. So I think that's what got me the job, plus Jason and his family are just down the street from mine, and I see him sitting here right now. I also love history, and I'll weave some history into what I talk about today. I would like to make two brief points during my talk. One is on the history of the maturing city of Spanish Fork, and then the other is of a more personal nature. My memories of Spanish Fork go back to the 1960s, but through family members, my memories stretch back much further. Spanish Fork has always been a city that tries to demonstrate pride and progress. I personally can remember when on the corner of Center and Main, there was a feed company, and the railroad ran a track right down the middle of Spanish Fork Main Street. We've grown a lot since then. It's now the largest city between Provo and St. George, and probably will continue to be so. During the time of that growth, of course, important decisions had to be made. In the 1920s, Dr. Joseph Hughes built a small hospital east of Main Street that had 3 to 4 beds. This hospital continued to function until the 1960s. However, there was always a desire for something a little bit bigger and a little bit more complete. In about the 1930s, Spanish Fork had to make a decision of where to invest some money into what was the next most important piece of infrastructure to build. There was a lot of debate, a lot of talk, and then they finally decided the most important piece of infrastructure to be built would not be the hospital, so they shelved those plans and they built a sewer plant instead. And we still have a wonderful sewer plant, but in 1936, Payson, on the other hand, did build a hospital, and I think since at least that time, Spanish Fork has had hospital envy with Payson. We still have a wonderful water treatment facility, but now we get to break even, at least with the hospital. The second point is a little bit more personal. As was mentioned, I'm an obstetrician gynecologist, and as such, I have an opportunity to work with and on the fairer and wiser half of humanity. I also have a keen interest in women's medical needs. Hospitals have always stood for safety and for progress in medical care. In the absence of such facilities, we really just have Mother Nature, who is often stern and unkind in her decisions. As is true with many families, my family has also had some difficult times when medical care has been left to Mother Nature. 87 years ago now, my grandmother delivered a set of twins. My grandmother, who was Serena Andress Ludlow, delivered a set of twins in her home here in Spanish Fork. Fortunately, the babies were very healthy and grew to adulthood. But my grandmother had problems with bleeding after she delivered, and over the course of several hours, sadly, she died. While such a tragic end may occur in this hospital or in any other hospital, the risk is infinitely more common than the risk is infinitely less common in the hospital than it was for my grandmother Serena when she delivered at home. As a citizen of Spanish Fork, I'm happy for both the progress and the safety that this hospital represents. As Spanish Fork continues to mature, this is an important milestone, and I can only say it's about time. Thank you very much.
That's interesting to know that Dave's the longest practicing doctor in Spanish Fork. He's old, because him and I went to school together, so I don't know what that makes me. We're excited to have IHC Hospital in our city. We know they'll provide a great service to the people in this area. I remember growing up, all the medical personnel, the doctors and nurses that contributed to our city. Each one individually made it possible for what we're witnessing today. I was born in that Hughes Memorial Hospital a long time ago. I think today it's an apartment complex, and it's only just a few blocks from where I live. Dr. J. Preston Hughes delivered me, and he took care of all my needs growing up. I'm sure that he's smiling down from heaven right now to this tremendous groundbreaking event, along with another individual that is close to my heart, my father, Ted V. Leifson. You know, many years ago, Spanish Fork tried to bring a hospital to our city. My dad was the head of that committee. I remember very well when the disappointment that he had when they chose not to have that hospital and locate it to another city. It's a great blessing to me and an honor to be able to be here today and to witness this groundbreaking of this hospital. I know that this hospital will serve a lot of individuals and bless the lives of a lot of individuals, and it'll also provide jobs and opportunities for those citizens here. I want to thank IHC for the groundbreaking, unique to our city here in Spanish Fork. Many of our citizens were raised on the farm and remember their grandfathers plowing their fields with horses and mules. Personally, my grandfather used to plow the fields with horses. I know he's pretty excited to see these mules here today. We are grateful that IHC chose our city and glad that they're going to be a part of our home of pride and progress. Spanish Fork welcomes to our wonderful city, IHC Hospital. Thank you.
Well, I've been a part of this community for the last 25 years, and I think I've been associated with Intermountain Healthcare for the last 15. First of all, starting with the outreach committees. So this hospital has been talked about that since the time I've been a part of IHC. So today is an exciting day, not just for the residents of Spanish Fork, but for the members of the community across all of South Utah County, the communities in and around Nephi. I have a unique role, having raised my family here in this community and building my career in this community as an educator. To also have the opportunity to serve as a member of the governing board for Intermountain Healthcare's Utah County Hospitals. Many of you know that Intermountain is a not-for-profit system of hospitals, clinics, and health insurance. The organization assembles these governing boards in communities across its entire healthcare system so as to have a meaningful connection with residents to access Intermountain services. Years ago, I was asked to volunteer my time and serve on the board. I serve as the chair of the board's Strategic Planning Commission, and I'm a member of the executive committee. Through my involvement, I've had the unique opportunity to participate in discussions about this hospital, how and when and where it might be constructed. As I participate in these conversations and as industry experts, as staff and operation of the organization have presented data and reports on the project for many years, a few things stand out to me. First, as a not-for-profit healthcare system, Intermountain Healthcare works very hard to be responsible with the dollars it earns through providing healthcare and then reinvest into the community through facilities like Spanish Fork Hospital. Intermountain has owned land on or near this site for decades now, and there has always been a plan to construct a hospital. Intermountain has tried to be responsible when they build this facility, ensuring there would be enough patient volume to sustain the hospital moving forward. Second, in line with my first point, Intermountain does its very best to construct facilities that both meet current needs today while allowing for the facility to grow in both square footage through expansions, as well as the types of services offered well into the future. So third, the organization is committed to constructing facilities that are innovative and allow for the use of the latest technologies, but to use by incredibly skilled caregivers. Jason briefly touched on a new model for mothers delivering babies to be implemented here at the hospital. This new model is not in place yet in any other Intermountain facility, and will allow for laboring mothers to have a more customized experience. So beyond all of this, perhaps what I'm most proud of is Intermountain's commitment to caring for those in need in our communities, and being an educator, watching that happen through financial assistance. In Utah County alone, during 2017, Intermountain contributed more than $33 million in charity care, reducing or in some cases eliminating patient bills in more than 30,000 cases. Working with our valued physician partners, it is vital that we have a healthcare provider that are committed to supporting those who cannot afford the full cost of their medical treatment. I'm excited for the future of this community and to watch this beautiful facility be constructed over the next 2 years. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm really honored to be a part of this special event and to especially share the stage with some local MVPs like Dr. Ludlow and Mayor Leifson that we've heard from already that probably know many of you in the community. I'm fairly new here and to Utah County, but I can already say I have many friends here in the audience and have been impressed with the warm reception by my patients here and also by the community of fellow practitioners. I've been able to collaborate in a lot of ways with so many other specialists outside of my field, which is urology. In fact, Dr. Ludlow, I first met him New Year's Day or New Year's Eve? New Year's Eve with an emergency case that we were both caring for a new mother. And it's awesome to be able to count on colleagues in this area so faithfully. And to see Intermountain facilitating that by bringing another institution to this city. I've also been impressed in my new practice with the distance that patients have had to travel just to see me. And this ceremony marks the beginning to shortening that distance for many of the patients. And it's a trend, kind of opposite of what the trend we are seeing in the country, and something that I was first made aware of 20 years ago when I looked into the idea of being a doctor. I remember having to write an essay to all the medical schools saying why I wanted to get into this field. And a lot of press at that time, and continues to be very negative about the healthcare industry. In the city where I was living, Washington, D.C. at that time, one of the big hospitals was just closing in one of the poorer areas. And a lot of my essay was dedicated to the shift in services, and I wanted to dedicate my career in part to provide care where it hadn't been provided earlier. And fast forward 20 years, it's pretty awesome to be standing here now in part of an institution that's reversing that trend, going against the odds and putting care where it's needed. This institution, this hospital here will provide specialty services. I've been a part of the planning, designing the clinics, really with the patients, with you all in mind, to optimize the experience for those patients and providers. Just to list briefly, there's pediatrics will be here, orthopedics, sports medicine, internal medicine, dermatology, pulmonology, physical medicine and rehab, psych, OB, ENT, gynecology, neurology, and urology. Those are two different fields. And one provider, when you're in medical school, you're taught one patient at a time. This is how you treat this patient. But healthcare doesn't work that way. A single provider is caring for hundreds, if not thousands of patients at a time. And then it doesn't require just one type of physician. It requires a lot of types of specialties. And we've taken that into consideration to create a facility that can house all of these services and try to do our best to coordinate this and to control some of the chaos that is a part of such a challenging endeavor. I know in some ways we'll learn that we didn't get it right, but in a lot of ways, the patients are going to find their experiences here to be outstanding and above and beyond what they've experienced before. And I'm grateful to be part of that, and I'm glad that Intermountain is really living up to their motto of helping people live their healthiest lives, and it's going to happen through this institution. So thanks for spoiling me with a few minutes, and we have to remember those people standing out there in the sun, so on to the plows as soon as we can.
Well, on behalf of the Utah Valley Foundation, Utah Valley Healthcare Foundation, I'm just so appreciative of all of you joining us here today. And this is so exciting. I mean, it's exciting for you, and it's exciting for us. This whole area, Springville, Mapleton, Spanish Fork, Payson, Santa Quin, Salem, I'm missing some, I know, but This whole area is just growing so fast. And I read somewhere the other day that this South County area will be the next big booming area in Utah. So you have so much to look forward to, and we really look forward to helping build a beautiful, modern, state-of-the-art hospital right here. It's a place where your babies will be born and your grandbabies will be born. And it's a place where there will be life-saving medical procedures for you and for your family members and friends. And it will all be done in a warm, caring atmosphere with the finest, most dedicated doctors and caregivers you could find anywhere in the world. I know every doctor who will practice at this facility will be ready to give of their time and their talent for the people of these communities. They're just the best. This new hospital will be a unifying force for this valley and will become the hub of your communities. I was born at Utah Valley Hospital. 3 of my children and 8 of my grandchildren were born there. We have been helped and cared for many times at that hospital, and we have established as a family a legacy with that hospital, and so have thousands of other families. This is what you have to look forward to now with an awesome new facility. You will have a legacy of help and of healing. A significant fundraising effort has begun to make this project a reality. The people of South Utah County have a history of generous support for those projects that benefit their communities. I have personally seen how generous people can be when they believe in a project that's as important as the best health care for their family. 3 short years ago, our foundation was asked to raise 10% of the money needed to build the expansion on Utah Valley Hospital. Well, that 10% came to $30 million. And it took my breath away. And when I got my breath back, I remember saying, they have got to be kidding. Because our foundation in its very best year had raised $1 million, and I just didn't know how we were going to raise $30 million. Then our campaign began, and I began to see the generosity of the people in Utah Valley. They realized the value and the necessity of a new healthcare facility which would enrich the health and safety of their families for generations to come. We've now surpassed that 30 million, and I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. We hope that you, as a group of people from these wonderful cities, will unite in support of this new hospital. We have already received leadership gifts, commitments, and we thank those generous donors for helping us get this campaign kicked off. We have a dedicated group of volunteers that are leading the fundraising effort, and I'm happy to be in that group. There are several of them here today, and I'd like them to stand when I call their names so you can see who is on this committee. Steve Bigler, isn't he cute? Mary Kraft Homer, Merrill Gapmeyer, Everett Calapolo, Steve Leifson, Phil Marriott, raise your hand, Jack May, David Nemelka, Matt Packard, Jason Wilson, and Lance Wilson. Can we give them a hand? Thank you for all of your service. Their work is just beginning. And they are your friends and they're your neighbors. So when you get an invitation to talk to them, please say yes and learn all about this project and about this campaign. Many great things are going to happen right here. You'll have wonderful quality, affordable, life-saving health care right here, close to home, in your backyard. You will have a beautiful, state-of-the-art hospital, the best medical care for your family and friends, a unifying force, and the hub of your wonderful communities. Please join us in making this a reality for you and for this amazing, dynamic area of our state. Thank you.
"'Twas a graveyard of unproductive land, alkaline in soil, a wasteland, barren, nothing grows. Yet we are here to toil. For why? What reason could it be? Why this very spot? Why in August? Why this day so sultering hot? Why the hand-cocked bucket? Why the mules with plow to till? To plant a solid footing for a place where all can heal. The mules, sure-footed, steady, open trails throughout the West. The railroads, mines, the logging camps, they worked with little rest. The Hancock bucket exhumed the earth, buildings, waterways, and roads. Dams were filled, grades were cut. The mules pulled their loads. Logs and stone, coal for heat, iron ore for steel, resources reassembled for a place where all can heal. Politicians, dreamers, architects, laborers, tradesmen too, the engineers, the financiers, there's work we all must do. To come together, sweat and tears, blood for life to give, to help we the people of this land with help of life to live. So from this day, our path is set. Godspeed, our haste is real. It's critical that we may have a place where all can heal. Thank you. Thank you. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes that made this happen. A lot of them won't get mentioned, but I'd like to mention a few on my team. My wife, Stacy, and full supporter and partner in the mules, she spoils them. Our ex-mayor, Wayne Anderson, who helped contact me and get me to come and do this. I've got Captain Russ Peterson and his shotgun Julio, and a Teamster in training, Isaac, that are here to help. They'll be running the Fresno. I've got Casey Shields and his daughter. Casey is a contract trapper. When they have a lion or a bear that's making kills, nobody can get him, he's the one they call, okay? His daughter, she's a barrel racer. You may see her down at the national finals. She was down there last year with the Junior Barrel Racing Association. They have mules, Maggie and Late. Now there's a story why Late got his name. Because every time they tried to go somewhere, they was always late trying to catch him. And Captain Russ Peterson's is Otis and Cleo is his team of Halflinger horses that you'll see out there. And then we have a team, Sir William and Sir Bernard, that will be pulling the plow. And I'd like to thank everybody that made this happen, and Godspeed. Thank you.
Well, that's quite an act to follow. I don't know, Jason. So I did grow up in Mapleton in the foothills of the mountains just here behind us. And Jason grew up here in Spanish Fork. And what he didn't say is we actually competed quite a bit, right? Springville, Spanish Fork. We had quite a few competitions here in Spanish Fork. But this is a special day and a very special place in my own heart, and it's a great opportunity to be here at this groundbreaking ceremony with the mayor, our local members of our board, physicians, caregivers, and many of you community members here at this site. Thank you, Jason and team, for the invitation and the opportunity to share a few remarks about this important milestone. You know, my childhood, I remember so well, spending so much time here in this community. Ice cream at the fast food place on the corner of Main Street. I came to every single Fiesta Days rodeo. I think it was the highlight of our 24th of July celebration, and as I mentioned, we spend a lot of time at baseball games and football games, and you have it here in Spanish Fork and the surrounding areas. It's a very special place in my heart and a wonderful community. I still frequent here, even though I now live in Draper. My daughter and her husband actually live just a few blocks over here in Spanish Fork, and I'm really grateful that we're able to bring these healthcare services to their community. Well, many have asked why we chose Spanish Fork to build a community hospital. Spanish Fork has really blossomed over the years into a thriving community that has managed business and commercial growth incredibly well. There have been comments about other opportunities in other towns nearby that maybe have not been quite as progressive as Spanish Fork, and it's been pretty impressive to see what the leadership of Spanish Fork has done here. This well-managed commercial growth is bringing more people into the community and more services. It's wonderful to have additional places to eat and to shop, but with all the additional individuals moving into the community, there is a great need for more healthcare services here in this area as well. Our focus at Intermountain Healthcare is to bring care closer to home, as Dr. Sporenberg mentioned. Really, we want to deliver health care as close to where people live, work, and play as possible. And this new community hospital will allow us to bring important healthcare services, and as Colleen mentioned, high-quality services to this community that would otherwise require continued distances in travel to achieve. Our clinical teams here will be top-notch, and they will also be supported by technology and telehealth services so that we can remotely bring in even additional specialty services that may need to be accessed. Again, that access to more advanced technology would otherwise require significant travel. So this is personal for me. It is a special place, again, a very special place in my life, and it is exciting to think about how this hospital will truly make a difference for those in this community that I do care about, which are so many of you. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this special event.
Well, what does the ninth speaker say? There's not a lot left to say, and it's a hot day. Jason gave me a full 2 minutes. I promise not to go a second over that. Today marks the 2-year and exactly 1 week anniversary for when Mary Carol and I came back here to Utah after almost a 20-year hiatus. And we're really glad to be back, and really for 2 reasons. One is what we experience here at work and here in your community, which is a dedication to service. And the other is the pioneer spirit, which equates with innovation, which Intermountain hopefully is synonymous for. So we try every day, and we talk on our leadership team, we talk throughout all of our facilities about helping people live the healthiest lives possible and being a model system. And given that things are changing so fast in healthcare, we've needed to stay on our toes in order to be able to do that. And that's the same innovative pioneer spirit that has brought Spanish Fork to where it is today. I hope that you understand what a privilege it is to have a new hospital in a community. We feel very privileged to be bringing it to you. But in healthcare today, most people are having shrinking problems, and we are awfully lucky to have growing problems. My grandmother would have said that's a classy problem to have. So your population, your industry, your commitment to community, it's our absolute pleasure to bring you a facility that's going to take you into the future. And we're happy to partner with all of you to do it. Healthcare is intrinsically a team sport. Doctors, nurses, community members, board members, people who are employed, people who are affiliated. We all play together as a team to bring the best to a community. When we do that right, we keep you well. And when you inevitably get sick, and it does happen to everyone, we're there to put you back with your family as quickly as possible. I can't wait for the day. I guess it's, you said we're going to get that done in 18 months, Jason? 18 months. 18 months, right? No. All right. So I can't wait. I'm a little impatient, I will confess, but I can't wait for that day 2 years from now when we're going to cut the ribbon and get to work here in Spanish Fork with all of you. So with that said, I will actually guarantee you that I am the first health system CEO in the United States that's going to get to break ground behind some really good-looking mules, right? So let's get at it, all right? So thank you very much.